Insane.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm Ryan. I go by Wibbs on all of the TCG discords and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I've been playing card games seriously for 10 years now because of Weiss Schwartz. I started back in like mid to early 2013. And then I was playing like semi-casually like Magic, The Gathering, Duel Masters for like some number of years before that as well. But I started taking card games seriously in 2013. So 10 years. Weiss record competitively. My only accomplishment is I got to go to Worlds once in 2020 with Kit and Dean here, and I finished third. And that's pretty much it. It's the only thing I have to my name in Weiss.
All right, good shit. All right, really quick. Also, I didn't notice my mic was muted in the beginning, so I'm not going to re-record the introductions or whatever. But yeah.
Every time.
Listen, I looked away for 1 second, and then I looked back. And I was like, "Oh, my mic was muted. Oh well, whatever. It's okay. I'll put a warning in the beginning of this show or episode or whatever. But it's fixed now."
Okay, they heard Ryan's beautiful history. Ryan, to be honest, a lot of people wish they had it. Maybe one accomplishment, but it was a pretty high one.
Like third at Worlds.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one.
It's I mean, we all play Weiss. I don't really take Weiss results like seriously in any regards, so I don't think much of it.
Reasonable take.
Truth.
Oh man. But yeah, that's kind of Ryan's history with TCGs and stuff. Just so people who don't know who he is know who he is now a little bit. Got to know him a little bit. So we had, since our last episode, we've had 3 regionals going on. So we'll just kind of talk about them first. I guess you guys want to talk about Europe first before we get into you got your guys' regionals runs.
Sure.
So yeah, where was it again? I wish I should have had this information already on hand.
Austria.
Austria, yeah. They had, what was it, 18 players? Or was it even less than that? Was it 16?
I think it was 16.
16 players, and D-Shift Rune came out the victor, I believe.
Yeah, the top 4 was Spellboost Rune, D-Shift, Control Haven, and then Ramp Dragon and Aggro Dragon.
What's the difference between Ramp Dragon and Aggro Dragon?
Yeah.
Aggro Dragon was playing like Goblin. It was playing Ivory Dragon.
Oh, it was playing like the super low curve stuff.
Yeah, it was playing like what's it called? The 4-drop sea creature thing. I don't know its name. I'm really bad with that.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, it had gained Storm though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember at one point I had a list running that.
Yeah, that card's actually
good. It's low to the floor, and then it's like 1 Genesis in the top end, 1 Cavalier, 3 Shenlongs, and then 4 or less. It also plays Demonic Strike.
Beautiful. And I assume 3 Fortes.
Yeah. Except he only plays 1 Evo Forte. Or sorry, they only play 1 Evo Forte.
I see. I guess that kind of makes sense because they don't plan for the game to go too long. But yeah, those are some interesting results. D-Shift Rune in general is like one I don't necessarily always anticipate to be in like in the top. I feel like it's one of the weaker decks, but like it worked out for them, so good on them. So we have those for the results in Austria, is what you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have anything to add to that, Dean? Anything interesting?
No, I think that's just like we saw a lot of dragon again. I think that
Yeah.
it's interesting that D Shift managed to go all the way in like a field of dragon, but I guess it's like not hard to top 8 a lot of these events given the size of them.
Yeah, so you
And
just have to
then
have a
once
really
you
good bracket run in your top 8, right?
yeah, like in top 8 is just like it's just 3 games. So you just have to be a little bit lucky in those games, right? So
Yeah, if you get like good matchups, and then if you're like, say, even if you're in an unfavored match, if your opponent just bricks a little bit, you know, you probably get there, right?
yeah.
And as long as you're like opening well, I guess. That's one of the weird things
Well,
about these regionals too. It's like, I don't want to like say anyone at these regionals are bad players. It's just very hard to understand the results when the player count is so low, and especially when it's like, I guess when it's not like 2 out of 3 either.
yeah, it's like really hard to judge because like it's I feel like it doesn't filter that many people in the Swiss round since you like over like close to half of the people are in Europe or Austria. It's legitimately half of the players managed to make in the top cut. And then after that, like you said, it's just only a few games away from securing that invite and getting the top place. So
Yeah,
this top 8 is like top 8 is just one game, right? It's only one game that like can make or break you there.
yeah. Definitely feels like, if you feel very confident about your play, it feels like the real battle doesn't start till top 8, essentially. And I think it's always really interesting too that like, I think we've had multiple reports now of like people who lose round 1 end up in top 8, which happened, I know, to you, Dean, right? And I think um the winner of
Whoa,
Chicago.
what are you
I'm
insinuating
saying you
here?
suck. That's what it comes down to, Dean. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no.
But it's also interesting too, like the winner of Chicago also lost their round 1, but ended up taking it all at the end, I believe.
I'm also pretty sure the guy that won Toronto also lost round 1, and one of the other dragons that made top 8 also lost round 1.
All right, we know the trick, guys. Everyone needs to start losing round 1 of the event so they can guarantee their victory. Oh man.
Whoa, though. X1 record. It's more of the X2s, right? The X2s are the ones that are like because
in other.
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think in like Chicago, our top 8 was 4 X2s. So it's literally like you lose 2 rounds. It's just like 50-50 if you get in or not.
Yeah, depending on
that's like where the really wonky
or your
stuff
tiebreakers
happens.
are. Because I know you said in Chicago. I guess we could talk about more later. But like the tiebreakers were kind of like dependent on someone dropping from the event, which changed the tiebreakers. So yeah,
like there's a lot of influence over that stuff.
Yeah. All right then, but either way, I guess we'll just move on to Toronto since we have Ryan here, so we can talk about Toronto. So overall, Ryan, how was your experience like in general before like even the event started, or you're playing in the event or whatever? How did you feel about like how they handled the event and everything like that? How did the staff do and all that?
Apparently we're the only one that ran well, but I actually thought like the whole event, like not just Shadowverse, but like Weiss and Vanguard for that day ran really well. Like the app made things work smooth. There was no issues. There was very little delays. Rounds got banged out super quick, which is like that sounds like the bare minimum standard for a big tournament, but like past experience with Bushi events, that's not usually how it goes. Like there's usually a bunch of delays in between rounds because they have to process people dropping and like redo pairings and all that kind of stuff. But no, it went really smooth. Shadowverse was finished at I think like 4:00 at a really reasonable time. And yeah, no issues whatsoever. Like the biggest delay was like deck check, I think took like 40 minutes for top 8. And then we got into top cut. And that was it. It was super smooth regardless, or besides that.
Yeah, I think Bushiroad generally has been doing a little bit better every season with their regional runs. I feel like they've been a little bit cleaner every year. I know, even though you said like for yours it was like ran the best out of all of them, I do know there's been some hiccups. I know in Chicago there was some talk about it on Facebook, specific in the Weiss group, and I mean, I think there's always going to be those growing pains in the beginning because we this is the first season we've used the Bushinavi app, right? So I'm sure there a lot of people have been, fumbling with it, and I'm sure the staff at the events don't necessarily always have the right answers for everything immediately, or even enough staff doing the correct thing. So it's good to hear that overall, like, your event went very well, and I think overall some of the other places would probably say, besides like the one or two mess ups, like it's been ran smoothly, I feel like. But I guess we'll hear more about that. But getting into your actual matches, how, like, what was your, I don't know if you don't necessarily have to go through every round specifically, but how was your overall run going?
It was. It's been a while. I thought it went pretty fine. I have my actual like pairings, I guess. So like my Swiss rounds were Dragon, Dirt Rune, Dragon, 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 which was like literally the expected outcome that I had, or I was thinking of going into the tournament. So like when the deck list came out and people were seeing my Haven deck, a lot of people were like didn't like it because of how greedy it was. But I made it greedy specifically to tech for the dragon matchup because I was literally expecting 80% dragon representation. Like the Toronto locals specifically is like 70 to 75% dragon, and then the rest are like sword and abyss basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the expectation was all the good players that qualified are qualified on dragon, so they're all going to play dragon, and you're basically just going to hit dragon every single round if you keep winning. So I was like gearing towards dragon. So hitting that matchup spread was near perfect for me actually. It was a super comfortable Swiss run. I ended X1 going into top cut with my only loss being like a dragon that just kind of hit like that dragon nuts high roll that you just die on like turn 7 and you couldn't play the game kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like double ramp Shenlong Forte Genesis game. It is what it is.
Yeah, pretty good. So one thing to note too, I think I'm remembering this correctly, but you actually qualified on Dragon, right, in the beginning?
Yeah, I went to the very first qualifier event in the Toronto region area, and I was on Dragon, and I did end up qualifying with Dragon, but I decided to swap to Haven last minute, or not even last minute. I decided to swap to Haven basically after that event.
So what was the big turning point for you to be like, yeah, screw it, I'm just going to take Haven to regionals? Like, what was your decision behind it?
So I was already, like, even before the regional season was coming up, I was already like mainly playing Haven. Like Haven is the craft that I find the most fun, unironically. Like I like super hard control, like setting the tempo of the game, healing, being in safe positions. Like that's like the kind of gameplay loop that I enjoy. So there's that to consider. The other factor is, like I said, the Toronto local scene that like I live in and like I go to is primarily Dragon, and I absolutely hate the Dragon Mirror. Like the Dragon Mirror feels like one of the most low skill coin flippy kind of things that you can play in Shadowverse right now, and I don't like playing the game that way. So like the expectation of 80% dragon going into regional, I'm gonna sit there and hit dragon pretty much every round. Like I don't want to just flip coins in the mirror and pray that I hit heads every time.
Yeah, the Dragon Mirror is pretty painful. It's a big reason I stopped playing Dragon like the first few weeks of the game coming out. After like the first week, it was just every time I hit a Dragon Mirror, I wanted to just end myself right there on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable.
Yeah. So I know you were very, very satisfied with your spread there, and I know some people on, like, for example, on the Shadowverse Evolved Discord, they're very negative about like Haven has like a 0 chance of winning against Dragon. What makes you feel that Haven has a relatively good matchup into Dragon, or at least close enough where you can fight them? Like, what makes you on that more than like other players are thinking?
So my take on the Haven versus Dragon matchup, and this might sound completely wrong to like you guys or anyone listening, because I think regional differences matter a lot in Shadowverse. Like the way people are building their decks in your region or your meta, and like the way they're playing it influences your thoughts and decision making. So this is like just my take based on the Toronto community. But the Haven to Dragon, or the Haven into Dragon matchup, I think Haven is very slightly favored, even if Dragon is able to ramp once, because Haven has the tools to properly stabilize a game at like turn 5 to 6, and then slowly grind out the opponent and then win via that excuse me, English is hard. Win via like the grind out essentially.
Yeah.
Like Dragon is really really strong because it has such high it plays high value cards that do a lot faster than every other deck can. And Haven is the only deck in the game right now that I feel like can respond to those high value cards early enough in the game to stabilize and then get to like the late game point where it can match tempo and match value with what Dragon is doing with like Acolyte's Light, Execution, Demis, that kind of stuff.
All right, sounds good. I kind of agree because like even for my local area, we have a lot of Haven and Dragon players, and it got to the point where Haven was seeing like their win condition, like a lot of games even was literally just like deck the Dragon opponent out, like as long as they're playing quick enough. Like it's happened a few times where people have been winning their games because Dragon has just decked themselves out because they were able to answer the board every time and stabilize and not necessarily get in range to like die to a one of Genesis or one of Forte or something like that. I don't know about every other region, but it's been interesting because I know there is a couple Haven players here too that they literally put in extra cards into their deck, like a couple extra, just to like pad their deck a little bit because they know in the Dragon matchup they're probably going to get really close to decking out, like combating Dragon. And there's been a couple times where I've played the Haven matchup into Dragon where I had a conscious decision whether I should go for the deck out or just try to like win through damage. So I know it comes up here occasionally. I just don't know how other regions are seeing it because I know we've seen some regions be like Haven's the worst deck in the format and like no one was playing it, and then
Definitely not that, but
yeah, I think that opinion was a little extreme, but yeah, it's very interesting how all these regions all have their own little metas being developed, right?
Yeah. And like another thing to note actually, like it kind of plays into like the way time works in Shadowverse, at least in like the competitive scene. Haven's like the only deck that really heals right now. Like at least like the way I built Haven, like you can heal like 20 to 30 HP a game. And the fact that time is decided based on your HP is a real benefit for Haven because Haven has a bunch of tools to be able to eat early damage and then still be able to win via HP. And like at least in the again regional differences, but at least in like the Toronto, all of the Dragon players were playing less aggro, more control, so games would inherently go longer. So having the edge in the time win condition as well is like another factor that I think Haven or gives Haven like a plus in that matchup.
Did that ever come up for you during your run?
No, it actually didn't. But like at shop championship events and like just random locals, that has come up before. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. A lot of those outliers feel like they come up more often at locals than anything. But yeah. Is there anything else that you want to ask Dean about his Toronto run?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I've played your list quite a bit. Am I wrong in that like your list is actually like not super good into something like Sword half of the time?
Yeah, my list actually is specifically really bad into Abyss, and I think Sword is like 50-50 kind of coin flippy.
Yeah, because I've noticed because Dragon has this couple setup turns, you're actually like fine like doing things like plea crack because you don't actually have a way to deal with the board most games until like 4 or 5.
Until like turn 3 going second with like Cudgel or turn 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, so like usually
unless you have like Bellringer Evo, I guess technically, but
yeah,
that's like so whatever.
Yeah, because I've noticed that usually like an aggro deck will like kill me, and I'm like, whoa, this heal deck is it only gets rolling in the mid game, which is perfect for fighting Dragon, but not really good if you see a lot of aggro.
Correct. Yeah. Like I said, I specifically like built Haven under the assumption that you're playing Dragon every game, which is why like the need for like low cost removal or like things to do turn 1, turn 2 to answer the board aren't in my list. Like because I didn't value them essentially. So like when I hit Abyss in top 8 as my top 8 matchup, I was fucking shitting bricks. I was so fucking scared. That was like the one bad matchup I had in top 8, and of course I hit it.
Well, it looks like you skirted that victory though, since you was able to pull through to second place.
I don't think I've told anybody this, but the hand I kept, or I spent like 2 minutes thinking about my hand because like they gave us infinite time to decide mulligans. But the hand that I opened was Bellringer, Acolyte's Light, Execution.
And you kept that. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right?
And I sat there like for 2 minutes thinking about how bad the game could go if I kept it, and then I kept it. And then I won the game because I had Bellringer on turn 1.
Yeah. Oh my, that hand would be instant gone if it wasn't for the Bellringer. Like, oh my god. I feel damn. All right. Oh, that's another thing I guess I want to ask too about your Toronto scene too, because like we saw zero, you had zero representation for Sword, and like I feel like Sword is probably like up there and like maybe like one of the more competent decks to be playing. Like, do you think that was just like a locals thing where everyone's just so focused on Dragon and no one's really playing Sword, or?
Yeah, it's entirely a locals thing. Like I said, the majority of local like people at locals are just play Dragon, and like maybe this is just because like we're really sweaty or something. But like a lot of people want to play the good deck, and everyone agrees that Dragon is the good deck to be playing. So everyone just kind of not like gravitates towards Dragon. So like majority of my locals are you play if you're doing well, you play against nothing but Dragon because like all the good players are playing on Dragon, and then if you do poorly, then that's when you start hitting like Abyss, Rune, Sword, like the random people that are like trying like new decks because they're bored of Dragon, or like they are like just people newer to the game that kind of like get rolled by Dragon round 1, round 2.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you think in general like Sword is poorly positioned, or was that just you think that came down completely to the locals again?
It's so hard. I do think Sword into Dragon can be pretty good, but like that matchup also kind of comes down to like if Dragon opens Dragon Warrior, I think Sword loses. If Dragon doesn't open Dragon Warrior, I think Sword's favored, but it doesn't guarantee that you win. So like at least like me personally, if that's like the matchup point spread that I would be thinking about for the matchup, I think that would be unfavored for Sword, and I wouldn't really want to consider it personally.
All right. All right. Any last questions, Dean? We can move on to Chicago.
No, I think he's about right on that.
All right. Well then, Dean, you also recently had your your regional run as well. You want to talk a little bit about that? I know it just happened this past weekend. You were able to top 8. Oh no. Did I DC?
No, Dean did.
Oh, Dean DC'd even better. Oh man.
Well,
choice. I didn't want to play Ryan's Haven list.
Oh, he's back.
Wait,
oh,
Dean.
apologies.
Yeah,
right, so you got to start over, yeah.
Oh yeah. So you guys know that I agonized a lot over my deck choice. Oh, did you miss the first part where I said I went to Chicago and managed to get the play map but nothing else? We'll include that.
Well, okay, you got it now, so.
Okay, there we go. But I was agonizing a lot over this event because, you know, I'm hungry. I'm hungry for the win. I was hungry for the win. Can't be hungry anymore. I didn't want to play Dragon because I think Ryan's right. The deck, it either gives you a win or it doesn't. It like you almost have no decisions. No, you don't have any tutor. You don't actually have a ton of draw cards. You either draw the nuts and like instantly delete your opponent with no thoughts whatsoever, or you lose. There's no in between. The deck plays a disgustingly like bricky curve for a lot of games. Like a lot of turns, you have like one play you can make, and it's like if it gets answered, you lose. Like, and you don't get the buffer until like turns 4 to 5 or 5. Yeah, like usually around 4 to 5 is when you start getting like the actual buffer, but you're just getting smacked in the early game. And then Ryan's heal deck is way too passive for me. Like whenever we would play into any other matchup, like play into the Shadow Wizard Money Gang, Spell Chain, you play into D Shift, you play into Forest, even into, well, not into Sword usually half the time, but sometimes like aggro Abyss, right? It's like you just feel like you can't do anything because you're just getting smacked. And the mirror, like let's say that it is like all Dragon and Haven. I hit that. If people pivot to Haven because it had such good results in the other regionals, which is what I thought might happen, I didn't want to play the mirror because then you're playing a game of Lorcana and you go, I have 40 health, I have 38. Well, I guess I win because I have 40. Yeah, like, right. I wanted to avoid that, so I went with Forest. I went with combo Forest with the Rose Queen package and a ton of removal for the Draken matchup. I'm playing like 11 main deck wards. I've got the bounces. I've got the Noble Fairies to be able to clear the Dragon Warriors. We tested it a lot, and I felt like I was pretty favored into a standard Dragon list. maybe not into aggro, and then I was also favored into Haven. So I'm like, okay, I'm favored into Haven. I'm favored into Dragon. That should be 75% of the representation. Surprisingly, that was 15% of the representation because there was 2 Dragons and 1 Haven. So we made some mistakes. We made some mistakes in testing, and 5 people brought aggro sword. Holy shit. And round 1, I fight aggro sword. Well, I managed to lose because I don't see a single Aria or like 2 fairy circles. I needed a little bit more. I dropped Archer. It stuck for a while, and then I was 1 mana short to live on turn 8. Unfortunate. And after that, I'm sorry, opponent from round 1, but you were a really bad tiebreaker. You were a really fucking bad tiebreaker. Because he lost out after that. And so I was at the bottom of the X1s, and I had to completely win out, or I would have not made top cut. Even at round 4, if I had lost that one, I would have been the worst X2 because my tiebreakers were unbelievably bad. Oof. So I managed to go 4-1 in bracket. The only noticeable thing that happened in bracket, I mean, there was like a couple. I managed to see Dragon once. I managed to beat Sword when I saw it the second time, and then the last game was against Aggro Abyss. My hand is looking pretty good, minus the fact that he hand rips the Ancient Elf. So suddenly I'm breaking horribly. My hand is like double Rose Queen. It's bricked now. It's horribly bricked because I didn't have Ancient Elf to bounce the Harvest Festival. And when I get to turn 8, I am at 10 health, and I have to Rose Queen 2 fairies because I only have 2 fairies in EX area on turn 8. And it's just enough for me to be able to hold Fog, and then I'm able to threaten Fog, so he has to hand rip it, or he dies to so if he hand rips it, he dies to he's able to push 9 face damage when I have 10 health, and he's at 8 health, which would kill him with the double Thorn Burst. So he has no actual way to stop me from lethaling him. So I'm able to clutch out the Aggro Abyss game on turn 9 and make my way into top cut. And then the top cut game was against Sword again, where not only do I don't know if it's the hand I kept. There's no way it was the hand I kept because like every draw after the hand was awful. Opening hand was like Bellringer, Harvest Festival, double Aria, and I'm against Sword, but he won the die roll because I won 1 die roll out of 6 games. And he tells me I'm going second. Like, he's going second. I'm going first. And I think, damn it, he's the first person to do that. And that hurts a lot, but that's fine. I have this Bellringer. I'm like, he might be playing aggro. I got this Bellringer. I've got this this Harvest Festival. This hand is like 1 card away from being cracked. And I put down the Bellringer. I pass. He puts down. I think he passes. And then I go, oh, top deck Archer. Insane. This is exactly what we needed. We have the Archer. I put down the Archer. He puts down a Veteran Lancer, and I draw another Harvest Festival. So I Harvest Festival, crack it, and draw another Harvest Festival. So I've seen 3 Harvest Festivals now in like a couple cards. And then he plays Onslaught on 3, killing my Archer, and I'm like, what? Who plays this? Who plays this card? But that's fine. And I draw Execution. He drops down Banner. Everyone had Banner. Everyone had Banner on 4. So I'm able to Execution the Banner, thankfully. I forget what I draw. I think it was like Silverbolt. My hand is like horrifically bricked, right, during this. He Alwida's on 5. I Aria in return. Able to clearing the Veteran Lancer that's been on the board for 4 turns, and then able to clear the Pirate Girl. And then I have to leave him a 2/2 and a 1/1. But I got a 5/5 ward. I think I'm good. I'm thinking I'm able to eat like maybe 2 attacks from him. Or at least like a Shadow Assassin Evo. And then he drops down the White General to be able to clear my 1 ward and like push even more face damage. And then the game was over. So the game was a couple turns. It was like 6 turns effectively. And I was checkmated, I feel like, for 3 of them. So yeah, my run ended there, and then somehow Forrest took it all with the dog. If you guys haven't seen those lists, it's kind of insane.
I know you were telling me how they won before this was kind of
Yeah,
ridiculous.
they're dropping the dog on people. Nobody knew what the dog did. They would just like drop it on 5 with a fairy, and their opponent would go, "I can't kill a 5/5," and then on turn 6 they would drop an Aria and they'd eat 9. I heard that happen to like 4 different people. It's like insane.
Jeez.
So yeah, because it turns out when nobody's playing like when nobody's playing shapeshifting mage, you get to just like read the most bad cards. So yeah, that's kind of insane.
That's pretty wild. And then
Uh,
what?
Oh yeah, overall fun event. Yeah, I am disappointed in myself, but nobody could have read that room. I'm just gonna be honest. Nobody could have read that room.
It was the exact opposite of what I thought the entire spread would be. I did
Yeah,
anticipate 50% dragon at least minimum.
I think we had what is it across the other 2 regionals? There were 2 swords total, and we had 5 in ours. So we had more than 2 times the amount of swords as like both regionals combined. So it's like, okay, well, you can only plan so far ahead.
Yeah,
Our regional, they took the tier list, but they were reading it upside down. You know, they had the windows like the screen flipped.
understandable.
I understand.
Oh man, but everything else about the event ran really smooth. No repairs, nothing crazy happened.
No, for Shadowverse
For
specifically,
Shadowverse, yeah.
every other event had the most unbelievable stories.
Yeah.
My favorite, I my favorite. Okay, hopefully he doesn't watch the cast because I don't think he plays Shadowverse. So my favorite event story from the Bushi Navi was, you know how Vanguard has 3 formats?
Yeah.
Do you know that it's all one deck log? It's like all one setting on deck log is just Vanguard, and then you select the format, right?
Mm-hmm.
A guy signed up for one of the formats, and it let him submit the wrong deck, like the wrong format deck. There's no deck check in the app,
Mm-hmm.
and then round 1 starts, and they say, "Sorry, you're DQ'd."
That's pretty powerful.
That was like the most unbelievable one that I saw. So yeah, definitely be double checking that Bushi Navi. Now, rarity doesn't matter, by the way.
Rarity doesn't matter. All right.
Rarity does not matter. So that's the one nice thing. They say make sure your leader card matches. That's it.
Oh yeah, that is actually worth noting. I was kind of stressing out about the rarity a lot. Is like I play 3 Cruel Priestess, and Cruel Priestess set code is different between the trial deck and the booster. Like I had like last minute like stress about that, but yeah, they don't at least in Shadowverse they don't actually care when you deck check. They just care that like you have the amount of that card and it does the thing that it says on deck log. Like the set code or rarity doesn't matter.
They actually don't care at all for any of the games they said. So that's
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, because they used to care for like Weiss and I think Vanguard like at least like 2 years ago. They were like super strict about it. Like if you had a foil that you didn't write down on your deck list, you were DQ'd in deck check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people that happen to before. I think it, like you said, recently, like within the last couple of years, they've become a lot more lax about it.
Yeah, so that's definitely nice. That but yeah, after that, the free fight was fun. Definitely got to get those angelic barrages. You got to farm those.
Oh yeah, I got to do that still too as well. One thing to note too, this doesn't matter as much for Shadowverse people, but if you're going to these events for different games, I saw a posting in the Weiss community where one person that we know, they registered, but they didn't finish registering all the way completely, and and they weren't sure that if they registered or not. And by the time the event started, they figured out that they weren't registered, and then they went up to try to fix it. They basically told him he's out of luck, unfortunately. And I guess that happened to like 10-ish amount of people at the event, which was really unfortunate. So if you're going to these events and you're not playing Shadowverse, because you have to manually sign up for Shadowverse with your invite, but if you're playing any of these other games, make sure to like quadruple check, talk to someone there to make sure that you did it correctly if you're not sure, just so you don't get screwed over, especially if you traveled very far. Because I'd hate to like fly out to somewhere and then get destroyed that way.
Yeah, I think the problem is a lot of stores still are just not using Bushi Navi correctly,
Mm-hmm.
even though they're requiring it for promos, they're requiring it for your store to get stuff. And like these people are still not using it. They're like, why would we use the new thing? Um, and so that when they're coming to the regional, right, it's like they haven't interfaced with the system. And it is really unfortunate this is happening, but at the same time, I feel like every person that's had this issue also has like never used the Bushi Navi, and I'm like, part of me is like also like a little confused about that because our store immediately is like, well, yeah, even if it's like a little awkward, we just have to do it. So yeah, definitely double check, but also I think locals also need to make a push to use the Bushi Navi correctly as well. So
Yeah, Ryan, for your locals, has everyone just moved to Bushi Navi now, right?
Yeah, like basically, like the moment that the app came out, every store was like, "Yeah, we're using this full time," and then people complained, and the store said, "Suck it up, we got to use it," and then everyone like learned by force, which might have been why like Toronto regionals went so smoothly. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, because I know here in SoCal, literally day one, everyone was using it. It's really funny too here because like, if you guys remember, I talked about how I was like banned in the app for 30 days due to a store signing me up and then it not dropping me properly. It was a mess. I find through with that, but recently another store posted like, "Hey, we don't care if you signed up and don't show up. We're gonna mark you as no show, and we're not gonna try to appeal this for you. If you're not showing up, you need to cancel or whatever." And so I think I heard like 6 or 10 people here got hit with the 30-day ban also, which is really funny. But yeah, I wish, at least for the system, for me, I wish there was more of like you get a warning at first, like, hey, don't ever let this happen again, and then the second time you get the 30-day ban, or maybe like incremental, is that the right word? Yeah,
and
bans. Instead of going for the full 30 immediately, like maybe be like, all right, for 7 days you're banned, and then go from there and build up
well,
from there.
the ban thing has to be some like weird holdover from Japan where like events
yeah.
actually sell out because
So
like nowhere in America like stores usually don't just fill.
yeah, in Japanese, the Bushi Navi penalty is immediately a 30-day ban because like Japanese locals are, or at least before Bushi Navi, were lottery because there's too many people, not enough store space. So someone getting that lottery ticket and not showing up was a huge issue. That's why, like in Japan at least, it was such a strict ban or such a strict punishment. And then yeah, they just carried it over 1-to-1 over here.
Yeah, I know, because like when we were in Japan for Weiss Worlds, I don't know if you were there at the time, Ryan, but like we went to like Big Magic and stuff, and then when we signed up for the events, they had to do a lottery also. Like they waited till 15 minutes before it started, everyone would sign up, and then they would you would pay your entry fee, then they would decide who would got into the event, and then everyone else who didn't get into the event got refunded their money for not being able to enter that week's local, I guess. Were you there for that, Ryan? I don't remember.
No, or
Uh,
not with you guys, but like I've been to, I went to a few locals in Japan and went through the lottery system as well.
yeah.
I've never had that happen. Never seen the lottery.
Wait,
It's
I don't
Dean,
go to the right
weren't
locals.
you weren't there when we went to Big Magic? The one where I won that one with Saikano? Okay. I guess you weren't
Did
there.
you not do any locals in Tokyo? Like it's like really bad in Tokyo.
What if I couldn't find locals in Tokyo on my last trip?
Okay, true.
What if I went to the Bushi Navi locals and they said we have 0 players and I went, "Oh." And that happened 3 times. And I went, "Oh, okay."
Very powerful.
That was for Weiss, not for Shadowverse. I saw a lot of people playing Shadowverse. Didn't see a lot of Weiss.
All right. Anything else you want to add, or maybe Ryan, you have any questions about Chicago Regional overall?
Mm, no, Dean covered it. Like
Yeah.
no way you could have expected such a wild meta spread.
Yeah,
He's
that
talking
is
about
crazy.
Toronto. Wait, right? Not
No, Chicago. I think like Toronto is like literally the
The
standard for
standard,
what
yeah.
people would have expected out of like a serious event, and then Chicago is like the exact opposite.
Well, like I understand. No, I don't. I understand. I don't know. So
I understand Forest. I think like Forest in the Dragon is like actually surprisingly really good. I don't understand so much Sword and Rune, and
I
that
think
might be personal bias.
okay. So well, Rune is. I think Chicago has this big like push for the Shadow Wizard Money Gang thing. Like where you just look at Facebook, you know, off of the group. And that's like the Chicago people, right, pushing that. And I love that deck. That deck is super fun. I understand. But also, I don't know if the people there are Timmys, or because like I don't know if you feel this. I mean, clearly you brought Haven, right? I don't know if Kit feels this. I know I feel this as a player. I have a lot of faith in myself as a pilot to beat the best deck. Like, right, the best deck is not always the one that will give you the best results. It's just the easiest one to get the best results with. But like, I as a player will play a deck that's not the best deck, thinking that my talent as a player and the surprise factor will give me an edge over the best deck. That's like what I try to do. And so I don't know if like every single player, there's not a single person that's like, I'm taking the easy road, and every single person sitting there like, why would I play Dragon? Because I am the best. And so like everyone comes in with their like random homebrew sword shit and like forest shit. And, like I don't know what's actually going on, because like you said, like the Dragon mirror feels skillless. And if every single person feels like that and they all say, I'm not playing Dragon, like it almost makes sense, right? Is this like the top player privilege showing up, where like the top players keep saying like, I don't want to play that because I don't want to play the mirror for this deck because I feel like it's not skillful and I want to like outmaneuver my opponent, so they all play a deck they think outmaneuvers it, and suddenly you have this crazy meta where nobody's on any of the good decks. It's only what's going on. Like, that's what I was feeling, because I know I myself as a player tend to gravitate away from matchups that I don't like the Dragon Mirror. And it sounds like you do as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that matchup. I get this is like literally just a regional difference, but like, yeah, Toronto is just a bunch of fucking sweat lords, so everyone plays Dragon because they want to be good.
Well, it's an argument that like playing the off stuff is also sweating, but
good translates to winning. Like they want to win locals and have results.
Now, what's crazy is a lot of people, I know there was at least 4 people that were not from this region, which makes me wonder what the other regions are going to be like. Because a lot of people were like, yeah, we're from Texas, or we're from like other places. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Go to your own region. Like, if we're going to have bro, I want the, maybe a little greedy of me, but if I show up to Chicago, and I'm supposed to have a regional the size of Europe, I want an EU regional. I want to have 8 people total in my regional. With I want to have 9 people with 5 rounds of Swiss in the top 8. That's what I want. Okay. But these people flew in. These people drove in, and they gay kept me. But
deserved. Get back down there. You thought Dragon was the best deck? No, Force and Rune clearly. But
we actually had I think one guy from California at Toronto as well. I was like really taken aback when he was saying that.
Oh wait, do you know who it was?
No, I had no idea who it was. Okay. But it was just like some random guy on Dragon, and yeah, like by round 3, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm from California," because no one knew who he was, and like the rest of the regional was just a Toronto local, so everyone knew each other.
Jesus. Oh man. Yeah, it's interesting seeing these people fly, especially ones who have regionals so close to them. I figured like people in Texas would just kind of stay in Texas, but I guess maybe if they're like us and they play multiple Bushiroad games, they probably were like, yeah, screw it, I'll fly to Chicago.
That is the curse, which is, yeah, I guess nobody wants to go into Clinton's stomping grounds. They know they can't win that one.
Dude, Clinton is just so powerful in Chicago. Every time I've met him in top 8, it's like, or even in Swiss, like he's my only loss every fucking time, and I'm just like, God, like I'm super far ahead, and then somehow just like, Weiss finds a way just to screw me.
Some people are legitimately just built different.
Yeah, they're built to like win at Weiss. It's impossible. But yeah, I think that kind of sums up the regional runs overall. I think the surprising tops mostly is like Chicago's had such a weird meta, and then was Europe kind of the same way too? Because like, I mean, D Shift won. I could see. What's up?
It was called like modeling or something, right?
Yeah, they had kind of like a weird topping thing too, but I can also see like, it's really weird because I don't know how locals are everywhere else, right? Which comes down to like everyone's local meta is completely different again. Oh wait, do you have insight on this, Ryan?
Yeah, I just pulled up the stats. The Austria, I can't speak German. The Austria local or regionals was actually like the meta you'd expect. It was 7 dragon,
Yeah, I know.
7 dragon,
Okay,
3
yeah.
haven, 2 sword, 2 rune, 1 abyss.
I saw it
So-
the day before. It made me think, tomorrow's easy.
Tomorrow's gonna
Yeah.
be easy. Yeah, it's interesting though that D-Shift took it all, right? I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting that D-Shift took it all because I think it's one of those matchups where like if you don't think about it a little bit more, then you'll just accidentally lose to yourself more than D-Shift beating you, unless they high roll. Because there's been games where my opponent on turn 7 double D-Shift me, and I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. I counted all the spells and everything, and somehow you went from like having enough to D-Shift only once to suddenly being able to like double D-Shift. I was like, this really hurts my soul. But yeah, I do think it's like a matchup that if you don't think about it and play it a little bit and like understand your outs exactly in their win condition, you can accidentally lose the game to yourself, which I've done before as well, where like I've had the perfect hand to like automatically win, and I did something really stupidly greedy, thinking I would be fine, and then I get punished for it and lose immediately.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it 14 players?
It's 16, I believe, right?
Was it 16 or 14?
12, 13, 14, 15.
Okay,
According
15?
to Mr. Connor, boats don't sink stats.
Now, I'm not saying anything, but I have to ask. Does 2-3 top in a 15-man tournament?
No. Right?
Okay.
It shouldn't. There's no way. I mean, I could do it right now. I can do the math right now. Hold on.
I
have to ask the real
I have the
questions,
calculator.
okay?
All right, 15 players. How many rounds? Was it 4?
They did 4.
Oh, they did
They did
4?
4.
Oh, okay. Cut to top 8. Well, I think in that
Well, it
case...
doesn't matter. 2-2s definitely make it.
Yeah. They're only 2-2s make it, so... Yeah, there's no 1-3s making it. For sure. That would be wild.
Oh man, I don't know. It's like once again the weird thing is, I really wish we had open regionals, because I think that's like where you would get to see like a real meta like evolve. Because like I don't know, like I feel like it's always like yeah, we can talk about the topping decks, but it's always like so weird because of like how small and weird these regionals are, right?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like I said, like when I like talk about this stuff, I don't want to like phrase it as like any player there is bad at the game. It's just the Swiss round into top 8 is very weird with the number of players. So you like I'm so used to joining other games that have opens like that have hundreds and hundreds of players, where like if I lose round 1, I have to like literally win it out, otherwise I'm not topping at all. Whereas especially if you go X2 or something, right? Because I've been to Bushiroad events where I went X1 and bubbled and got 9th place out of.
Same.
I mean, Ryan has it happened to him too as well.
In 2019, the year that I won Toronto and went to Worlds, I went to 3 other regionals. I went X1 in every single regionals, and my placings were 9th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah, like it's kind of ridiculous when you like go to those. I don't think that takes away from like the players that showed up to these regional skill at all, because obviously all these players are already good because they had to win out their locals at least to get to make the invite. But it's always so weird looking at these results and being like, well, are these results actually representative of like how the game is played at a high level? And like to me, the answer is yes and no. It's like, yes, if that particular group is playing, that's like probably what like the meta looks like. But at the same time, like just the number of Swiss rounds, the fact that you can like lose 2 rounds early on and still top 8, and then like you can have that if you just land on the lucky side of the bracket and you happen to hit like 2 really good matchups in a row, like, and suddenly you're invited to Worlds, right? Once again, like not taking away from anyone's accomplishments or anything. It's just very hard to like parse that data and be like, is this actually useful data for us to look at? Or is this just like, we just know all the players there are good. It's just it turns out this turn scuffed because of the player turnout. So I'm really excited to see next year what their plans are, and hopefully they move to an open bracket. Because I think everyone who's like in the TCG community playing to be as competitive as possible. They love traveling with friends to different places and being salty with all their like losses in the corner, like complaining about, oh, my opponent like, you know, had the nuts or whatever. I think that's always fun. That was like some of my favorite time, even when not winning events. It was traveling with you guys like to Toronto, to Chicago, and all that stuff, right? So I hope that ends up happening here. We get bigger turnouts for these events. So like at least we feel a little bit more confident, like, yep, this top 8 happened and it was like the kind of the spread we expected and nothing too crazy happened or whatever. But yeah, maybe that's just me talking out of my ass. Who knows?
No, I think that's true. And also I also, man, I want to show others that our game is good. And there's something that rubs me the wrong way when like Vanguard and Weiss both have like 200 players eating up tons of tables, and then we're off in the corner on 2 small ass tables because there were 20 people in our regional because they literally won't let people attend. So it's like, not only do I want to see our results show like more meta development than like, holy shit, like I don't know, like people just randomly came with stuff. But also for the, you know, showing the other people, yo, our game is real, right? Because like if I'm playing Vanguard, if I'm playing Weiss, and you look over at the Shadowverse, you're like, holy shit, dude, that's Buddy Fight over there. Or that's not Buddy Fight, that's Dragoborn over there. They got like
7-man
2
regional.
tables. Yeah, they got 2 tables. They run like 4 rounds and then they leave. Like, right? It's like it not only like makes the results look weird, but it also, I think it looks weak to the other players, like, right? Because you have to go, oh, wait, just so you know, we had to win the locals to show up, and we promised the locals are bigger than the regional. Like, right? It's like really weird.
It's really funny because like a lot of the locals here are like, they hit 30 people pretty regularly, and like they're a lot of times the bigger shops here, they always hit 20 plus. So it's funny that like I'm competing locally right now to the like with that are bigger than some of the like almost all these regionals that have played so
Every
far.
regional.
Yeah,
Every
which
regional.
is insane to me. And then also kind of like what you alluded to, I think like people who don't necessarily know the game and they're like on the outside looking in, and they're like, okay, you won a regional that had 20 players, like how is that skillful? But if I'm like, oh, I'm at a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament and I like top 16 this like 800-man regional or whatever, like then that's, even though it's like you didn't win the event, top 16 is like, whoa, wow, you did really good, you must be really good at this game. Whereas like
I top
think
16 to Shadowverse regional.
yeah. Yeah, kind of, exactly. And you're like, yeah, how many players were there? 16. Yeah, so it's very weird. It's like, yes, it is a feat to like top these events, win your invite and everything, and you should be very proud of that. But like when you tell other people that, it's kind of just like,
more than telling,
yeah.
it's like seeing, right? Like these people are in this room and they see 2 giant rows of Vanguard players, 2 giant rows of Weiss players, each row being about 100 players, so 200 players in each one. And then we got this dinky little table, like we're just off in the corner, and it's like, what's going on here, like, right? Because that's even within the thing, right? Because like I know that like you like when we go to like a Weiss regional, we see Vanguard and there's tons of players. There's tons of Vanguard players. And like even if you're not playing Vanguard, you go, wow, Vanguard's pretty big. It's popping off, right? Like they got like 300-man regionals. They have like 300-man regionals in a row. And you go, that game's pretty successful. And maybe it could make you think maybe I should try Vanguard. But did you ever want to try Dragoborn? Did you ever look at the Dragoborn and you go, they got a 4-man regional with top 8 mats, like, right?
Yeah.
So I don't like the weak showing that we have at the regionals at the moment. I'm really hoping that gets fixed.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful for open events next season. So please just let us move on.
I've been saying since like day one, I actually hate this invite format. I think it's like fucking horrible for a game that just came out to gatekeep the competitive season right away like this. And like the argument for them doing it this way is like they didn't have enough time or like logistics to figure out like open events. If they were like getting like 100+ people, they wouldn't have been able to run the event. So they forcefully make smaller events to be able to run them, which like makes sense, but I think that's horrible. Like it kills the game's growth. Like it dismotivate, or disincentivizes people to travel. Like people just like as soon as the qualifier season's over, if you don't get an invite, like your competitive season's done until next year, which fucking sucks. And then you get bored of the game, like all that kind of. I hate it. I really hope we transition to like BCS open format. Anyone can play. You can travel as much as you want, and then like the game can grow from there.
Yeah, I think that I legitimately think, man, I think English Bushiroad needs to step up. I think they need to either kill one of their fucking Vanguard formats or like actually just get bigger. Because like the thing is, if you looked at Chicago, I don't know how it was at Toronto. There was no extra room. There was no way we could have had a bigger than like 60-man Shadowverse event, given how much space Weiss and Weiss actually increased in players a significant amount now that they removed the vaccine and the mask policy. We actually had 200 something Weiss players. That's insane. Like what was Chicago last year, Kit?
I think it was like 150, 160 around there. Yeah,
150 over 200. Or it was like 190, but you said over 10 people got turned away, right?
Yeah.
Vanguard was pushing over 200 players. And then the day before, it had over 200 players in one format and like 90 in another. So they're pulling 300 in day one. Where do you put the Shadowverse players? Like either they have to get bigger venues or they have to kill one of these games or they have to run them separate. And I don't know which they're going to choose to do.
I don't expect Bushi to like make another event for Shadowverse. It is the concern. So I am kind of I'm obviously biased. I don't play Vanguard, so I'm in the camp where I think that like the preferable outcome is like one of the Vanguard formats does die because like fuck, what's the name? I don't know the names of the formats.
It's the premium. Like, that's the Eternal one.
Yeah, the Eternal format of Vanguard, like all my Vanguard friends talk about how fucking awful it is. And like everyone I know hates it and apparently like turnout's super low for it. So like the hope in my eyes is they just kill it as a competitive scene and then Shadowverse gets to be an open in that slot as well. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. Because also some of my locals that came to Shadowverse that play Vanguard, they were also like, I don't know if they said premium specifically, but if that's the lowest turnout, it's probably the one. They were saying like they're hoping that Bushiroad does kill off that format so that Shadowverse can grow and like take its spot. Because one, they're like, we don't need 3 formats for Vanguard. It's kind of ridiculous, especially when one of the formats like majority of the people do not like anyway. So they were also on board. Like they're actually hoping whatever that format was, which I think you said premium. I assume that's what they were talking about. Would die off. They would hopefully remove that format from it and put Shadowverse in its place then.
And then because I know like Ryan mentioned motivation, and it's like for me now until literally spring of next year, I am just going to go to locals with meme decks. And I almost do not care about my performance for the next 4 boosters. Like, I don't have to grind anymore. Yeah, I'm going to, like, put up deck things on the channel. But, guys, they don't have to be winners for me anymore. They just have to be able to beat a 10-man locals, like, right? I don't actually care anymore about, like, the most optimal deck. For 4 whole boosters, I don't have to care. Despite the fact that I'm normally a tournament grinder. I would normally have a flight to Texas booked, a drive to I would have been in Toronto already and I would be ready to go to Atlanta, but instead I don't even have to prepare for Worlds. I don't have to prepare for anything until literally like set 4 comes out. And that's not going to stop me from playing the game. I'm still going to make content. I'm still going to I still like Shadowverse and I'm still going to go to locals, but like the competitive drive to do as well as I can and to be as deep into the game as possible, it's not there. And that's coming from somebody who's like I'm pretty married to the game at this point.
I mean, I'm going to Worlds and I'm in the same boat. Like as soon as Toronto's over, I'm like, all right, sick. I get like a month and a half break before I have to start sweating again and like worrying about Worlds. And like what's even like funnier to me is like even if I hard grinded BP2, it almost feels like superfluous because Worlds is UMA format.
Yeah, all you have to do is grind UMA. You have to you can completely ignore a format.
Like being able to just like skip, like I'm obviously gonna grind and like learn and try to get better at the game and all that, but like being able to just functionally skip an entire booster despite going to Worlds is like really weird to me as a competitive player.
Yeah, for sure. Like Yeah, like I'm just worried about BP2 right now, only because that's what my regional is going to be for whatever my regional run after. And after that, I'm just going to like kind of forget about BP2 and start moving on to like proxying Uma and playing those decks out, grinding for worlds if I get my invite or help whoever here,
I'm
prepare
actually
for
grinding.
worlds.
I'm actually going to be grinding BP2 a little bit to help a local. So,
Oh yeah, you still have one of
because
the locals there, yeah.
Yeah, we had a local that didn't want to run into me and the other local, so he said, I'm just going to go to Atlanta and try to get my invite there. And I'm like, well, good luck. Maybe I'll help him there, and maybe he'll be able to take down Atlanta. We'll have a story December 3rd or December 6th or something like that.
Yeah. Is it really quick? Does Atlanta come before Texas, or Texas comes before Atlanta?
It is like December 3rd is Atlanta,
Okay,
so I'm assuming it's
I'll probably maybe I just play in Texas for my regional then. All right. I think that kind of wraps up all our regional talk. Unless either of you have any last second things to talk about or want to ask.
No.
All right. Well, Dean, did you prepare the thing for Ryan?
Wow, we have our guest, the Ryan Wibberly from SBTCG. Is that still a thing?
Technically, yeah.
Technically, yes. Okay. I know that he said that he doesn't want to touch they don't want to touch Shadowverse because they don't believe in it. But at least that was the last thing that I heard from them. I'm not their spokesman. But as you know, we have a segment called Guess That Flavor Text. The rules are simple. Nobody ever gets points, so the points don't actually matter. Supposedly, you can get up to 4 points. And then we have 3 lifelines that you get after I read you a flavor text to help you guess the card. We're using digital flavor text, as you know. And your lifelines are what class the card is in digital, what type of card it is. So is it like follower, amulet, or spell? And what booster in digital it came out in.
Okay, can I just I didn't mention this. Can I just preface this? I played digital Tempest to Wonderland, and that's it.
Okay, one, every card currently, minus the golems, every card currently in digital was out during that time. Number 2, just imagine what you think the picture would be, okay? like for some reason, Bushiroad won't put flavor text on our cards, so we're a little scuffed on this segment. But I refuse to back down.
I'm guessing evolve cards, but you're using digital flavor text. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yes.
but don't worry.
Okay.
The pictures are the same, so you should have the same amount of ease in guessing it, which is
my
0% chance.
Listen, Dean and I are tied, and we've been going how many weeks now?
Yeah, we each had one where I'm like, hey kid, you know what Dragon Oracle says? But Ryan, I have faith in you. I have so much faith in you. Okay, are you ready?
No. What the fuck?
The end is upon us. It is all part of the plan. Do not look back, children of gods. Do not resist, children of demons. There is only one path towards eternal peace. Utter nihilism. Nihilism? Nihilism. Holy shit. You know, I'm not the smartest kid on the block. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Oh my god. What the fuck? Okay, well, it sounds like a Haven. It sounds like a Haven card.
It could be, perhaps.
Man. Fuck it. I have 3 lifelines and 4 questions. All right, I'm just gonna guess like Priest of the Cudgel. I have no idea, man. It sounds like a Haven card, and that's like the only like dude Haven smite guy I can think of.
So you're locking in Priest of the Cudgel?
Yeah, Priest of the Cudgel.
Well, Ryan, unfortunately you got it wrong. It was in fact Skullfane.
What the
Oh my god, I hate this game.
Skullfane was a card in digital?
Yes, it was okay. Do you want to know what its effect? I'm pretty sure it was a 9 mana creature.
It was like pop all your amulets immediately, right?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
Jesus, God, I hate this segment.
What bro? He didn't even use a lifeline. He didn't care. Oh, he got a follower in Haven, but this was base set instead of, or this was classic instead of basic, because Cudgel is a basic card that you can still play in digital in rotation to this day. Did you know that? You could put that in your deck. However, Skullfane was a legendary in the classic set. So yeah, the booster set question might have helped you had you known sets.
Yeah, no chance.
Jesus.
Well, we tried to help you.
Sorry, I started with Bahamut, not Tempest. I get those two mixed up. Tempest is Eshtar, right?
I have
Tempest
no
is like Zeus. Probably.
Zeus, Odin, Eshtar, and then like Bahamut. No, Odin was Bahamut.
Yeah,
right?
Odin's Bahamut.
Okay.
Make haste, Sleipnir, the battlefield's near. Or something like that. I only know English lines.
Oh man, did you say them out loud at regionals?
Some of them. Don't you know people? It doesn't matter who it is. Only shout out to Khalil for being the only person that said they actively play the game in English. Every other person's like, yeah, I play in Japanese. Well, you're wrong.
Oh yeah, I played Shadowverse digital in Japanese as well, man. Okay, no. You can give me that face, but my reasoning is Kuguyu, like the voice actor. I'm a huge simp for her, and she voices Vampy, so please understand. Rie Kugumiya, the Lolly Tsundere voice actor that does like Taiga and Shauna. Yes,
Sorry,
no, yes.
Dean only watches.
I watch all my anime dub nowadays.
Okay. No, she's a boomer voice actor, anyways.
True. All right. Well, with that out of the way, we got this last thing here. We had a bunch of questions asked by some Haven players in the Shadowverse Evolved Discord to ask Ryan here about his run and stuff like that. This was supposed to come out way sooner and help someone else in their thing, but I screwed up. That's on me. But we'll go through these questions here. I already gave them to Ryan way ago, so he's a little bit prepared. I'll just go through the questions and then we'll close out our outros after that. So the first question we have here is, what do you consider to be your good and bad matchups? Are any matchups unwinnable?
Just for context, this is like in regards to Haven, right?
Yeah. In regards to Haven.
Okay. I already mentioned it. Aggro Abyss, even if you tech for it, I think is fucking horrible for Haven right now. Like, Aggro Abyss's whole game plan of like damage from hand, spawn bunch of multiple ghosts, you buff the ghosts, like is counterintuitive to the way Haven plays. Or the way Haven responds, because Haven likes to respond by clearing one thing. Like Scripture hits one thing, Light hits one thing, Execution hits one thing on the opponent's turn. You don't have good AoE on your opponent's turn, so like the ghost spam really hurts. So I have to reiterate that I hate the Abyss matchup. I don't think it's unwinnable though. I think it's like just a fucking coin flip. Agree, disagree, Dean?
No, I think you're about right. Like, cause I've had games where it's like I'm trying to get to like turn 5 to be able to play the Sentinel, start healing, you know, like just have stuff, and then I look at my health, I'm at like 8 health, 6 health.
Yeah.
It's like turn 5, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What's going on? And they just keep smacking me, and it's like their board disappears, and they've already smacked you, so it's like, oh, I'm dying pretty quickly.
Yep. At least in my personal opinion, I think your good matchups, assuming you tech for them correctly, I think Sword is a really good matchup for Haven if you tech for it, like Scriptures specifically. Like if Haven has Scriptures and Cudgel, I think that matchup's really easy. I'm of the opinion that you're favored in Dragon, but like if you say it's 50-50, I wouldn't disagree or anything. I actually think Haven is usually pretty good into Rune, whether it be like Dirt or Spell Boost, just because of the amount that they can heal and like how limited Rune's range is. And Forest, I think, is like kind of the same logic if Forest is playing like the control combo. And like you can agree to disagree, but like my take on that matchup is if Forest doesn't like Blessed Fairy Dancer loop go wide really early and like put pressure on the board immediately, then usually Haven can just like heal and not be in range to die to Silverbolt Rose Queen combo DK kind of stuff.
Oh, I think that the Forest matchup is like you don't die to like one Rose Queen, you die when they like Rose Queen you twice.
Yeah.
Because you don't do enough to. I don't think that your list is, especially that has like no storm. I don't think it does enough to ever stress me out. I just like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If like you're teched correctly, so
Yeah.
like Shadowverse specifically is like a game where like your deck techs matter so much and like skew your matchup percentages. So it's like kind of hard, or at least I think it's really hard to not just talk about like in general. Like in general, Haven's tool set I think can be favored for in the Forest matchup, unless Forest has one specific opener, which is like Fairy Circle, Blessed Fairy Dancer, bounce it, Blessed Fairy Dancer, go wide.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add, Dean? You're just like staring off.
No, I mean, like, I agree with a lot of it, except for the. I think that the passive game plan of Haven is the only thing I do disagree with, because I don't, like he says, like, yeah, you can dodge the Rose Queen Bolt combo, but I'm like, yeah, but what happens when I do that like 3 times in a row? Like, right? But like I think that any deck, I think he's right about that on Rune. Rune only has like X amount of damage, and if you play around enough of it and you hold up enough removal, D Shift technically has higher reach, but it's you hold up the removal and they have no reach, and then the Spell Chain deck has like X amount of reach, and you just you heal, and then they lose because they can only deal like 35 damage, and you heal up past 40. So I think all of those are right. And yeah, Sword is definitely slower than Abyss. Abyss having the multiple bodies is just too rough.
All right. So we got the second question here. Which matchups do you prefer going first or second on, and why?
So the Sword matchup, I think no matter what deck you play, you always want to go second. Like Sword with Evo points is like fucking
Insane.
OP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Floral Fencer on turn 3 is like the most broken thing in the game. Like just straight up. Like dude, Floral Fencer is still like a 3-2 of in Japanese list to this day. That's just how fucking OP that card is.
It's Sword's identity, man.
I think in every other matchup though, you ideally want to go first for the most part. And my reasoning is that going first as like Holy Sentinel Control Haven, it lets you drop Holy Sentinel on turn 5 easier compared to if you go second, because your turn 4 play is usually better. It responds better to your opponent's turn 3 play, which gives you that breathing room tempo to be able to drop Holy Sentinel, make a Tiger, and not be in like a position where you're going to eat like 8+ damage because you decided to take a slow turn.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that.
Do you say first against Dragon?
Like ideally, you want to go first in every matchup besides Sword. That's my take. But like I think like most matchups, except for Rune, you go second and you can be okay. It just is a little rougher because you have a harder time being able to curve into Sentinel.
I can see that. I always felt like I was getting snuffed out by like them. Well, yeah, because they get the Evo Orb plus they ramp, and then it's like they can randomly double ramp on some turns, and I just go, whoa, that's a little too much.
Yeah, I mean that can happen, but like that's just Dragon things. Like like the Dragon matchup specific, Dragon matchup especially, getting Sentinel out earlier rather than later is what swings
Very
the
crucial.
matchup in your favor.
Yeah. Yes.
Like if you don't going second in that matchup, and like if your opponent's good and like they know how to like tempo and like make you respond to the board every single turn and like not have a free turn, like you just can never drop Sentinel until you hit. At which point, like it barely matters. And then that's when like Haven is in really bad spots and like the matchup's like almost unwinnable.
Yeah, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that, actually.
Yep. All right. Next question here is: what matchups is Curate for, and when do you generally play her into an established board, or only on an empty board, or when you can hold up 4 for removal?
Oh, man. I guess just a side note, I did see a bunch of people were like taken aback by playing Curate in my list when I won and my list was going around like the Discords and stuff. Do you guys actually think Curate is like a weird card to play?
No, but I know like whenever I talk to people in the Shadowverse Evolve under Haven, they have very polarizing opinions on the card. They either love the card or they absolutely hate it. I feel like most of the people there do hate the card to the point that like if I had to guess, a lot of them ended up cutting Curate. I don't know if that's changed ever since your list dropped or anything, but in my opinion, like Curate was always like a very solid, very good card for me. And a lot of times though, I did see it more as like we've hit turn, I have 10 play points and I can play it now, or I need that extra. I know I'm not going to eat a lot of damage next turn. I need that extra breathing room. Curate felt fine, and it still presented like a 5/5 body for them to deal with. But I guess, what are your take on it?
Ryan or let
Ryan,
Ryan, I guess.
Yeah. So like I'm a huge fan of Curate. I kind of hated it at first when I think I was bad at piloting the deck, but like once I learned how to play the deck, I kind of grew to love Curate. And that's because I think like Curate is like the perfect card to like show and do like the Haven game plan, like heal, control, stabilize, be in a good spot. Like to me, I guess to better word it, and I think I can see where people come from when they think like the card's bad. Like if you just kind of drop it on turn 6, like it doesn't respond to the board, it doesn't do anything proactive. It's a very defensive, like low tempo kind of card. Besides being a 5/5, and a lot of times if you don't set up your turn to be able to play the Curate, then yeah, the Curate is like one of the worst cards in your deck. But if you set up turns to be able to like actually efficiently play it and not run the risk of like having a do nothing turn and like eating a bunch of damage, like Curate to me feels like one of the best cards in Haven at the current moment. And what I mean by setup, I mean like if you spend a turn to off turn respond to things and you have an empty board, Curate's like the best thing next to like Lucy that I want to be dropping on my board, because it heal, gas, stabilize, like better position, all that kind of stuff. Same thing, if you curve Sentinel on 5, your turn 6 play can be Curate, crack hair, 10/10 on the board, you heal 5, you drew a card. Or if you have like Sacred Play on the board already, same thing, 10/10, draw 2 cards, heal 5. And like to me, turn 6, that's like a fucking insane play. And then same thing, if you hit the 10 mana turn as well, like you can just drop it on 10 and then hold a kill spell as well.
Yeah, I think why some people have gravitated towards hating Curate too is just that I think a lot of people who get into Haven and don't spend a lot of time thinking about how their plays play out into every matchup, it's like Curate feels amazing once you've established the Holy Sentinel and you're able to like, plan out your turns in that order and like set up for future turns with cracking amulets and stuff like that. But I found people who really hated Curate to the point where they're like cutting it from their deck completely. It was just like those were the players that were having issues of like I never could like establish a good Holy Sentinel. I was stuck, like Holy Sentinel was stuck in my hand until like turn 8 type of deals. And then I feel like those people who weren't able to like set up turns in advance these plays just end up hating the card because like you said, isn't really proactive in like dealing with the board or doing anything like that. But if you're able to have the Holy Sentinel and other things around it to be proactive on board and go and deal with things your opponent are putting out, it gives you that if you have the 6 play points, you can play the Curate and establish more of a board presence and then heal back up and feel more comfortable in you're not going to just like die to Genesis or something crazy like that, right?
Yeah, I think that's like, at least in my opinion, I think that's kind of perfect because yeah, like definitely when I was bad at Haven and Shadowverse when the game first came out, like I wasn't playing around things, like I didn't know what my opponent's decks were doing. I wasn't planning my turns out, like I wasn't thinking like 2 to 3 turns ahead. And like in those kind of situations, like do nothing cards like Curate, Lucifer, hell even like Themis at one point felt so fucking bad. Maybe that's my take. I don't know.
No, I understand a little bit when people play your list that it's like a little underwhelming because like Curate, when you crack the hair to summon the tiger, your opponent can't have something with 5 or more health like on board, right? And it's like a lot of the time Dragon might have like Zernitra plus Dragon, right? And it's like your Dragon does literally nothing against that board. And so that's the problem I have come into. I think the Curate's good. But I personally think that Haven needs 2 Death Sentence. I think that Death Sentence is the best card for making cards like Curate and like Sentinel come out easier. And I know you say that you haven't really played with it a lot, or you might have.
So my first draft of Haven was like Skullfane, Amulet Control kind of thing. and I was playing Death Sentence in that variant, and I fucking hated that card. And I want to actually attribute it to me being bad and like not knowing how to use the card correctly. Because like a lot of the time it would just like sit in my hand, and I felt like I could never play it or like I could never establish it, and it just kind of fucking rotted.
Well, you like drop it on 3, or like you search it and then drop it on 4, and it helps your like, yeah, you might eat some health damage, but like you don't care about eating some damage, right? Like you have 20 health to work with. Actually, you have like 40. But the idea is that like you're able to like de-incentivize your opponent from going tall, which also helps. But then also, even if they force it out of you, on 5, that's like perfect, right? It's like you put down the sentinel, you crack it, boom, there's your tiger, and then you occasionally try to greet it back with the cruel priestess, and it just gives you that little bit, like before you had to acolytes a card. Like you just look at your opponent has a card on the board, they drop a Fafnir, and you're like, I gotta acolyte it, boom, there's 4 mana gone. Now it's like, oh well, I have this this card on the board from a turn ago where I was able to hold mana, and I boom, the Fafnir's gone, and I got a tiger, and I still have 8 mana, and I can develop this curate now and then go a +5. So, but I understand like where, like you said, like one, it's like, I feel like curate's a skill check, and like, it definitely is like trying to find the thing. But I don't think the card is bad. I do think it's awkward and very hard to play. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
All right. So the next question here: do you find yourself bricking more often because you run Curate and Lucifer?
That's such like a weird question. The actual like curve on my deck is like super low to the ground actually. Like what 5 mana is like Themis, Sentinel, 6 is Curate, 7 is Lucy, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. I don't even know how to respond to this. I don't like questions like these because it's just like, yeah, dude, what if you hit like the 38% of your deck where you mulligan and you can't play the game? It's like, I don't know, dude, it happens, right?
No, yeah, for sure.
No, I don't think, at least like the way I built Haven, like I don't think it bricks that much. Like it curves lower to the ground, and you have things to do turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and then once you get turn 4, that's when like all of your power cards come online, and then the deck just kind of runs from there. It's like I don't really think the deck bricks.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement, unless like I think like in this game for the most part, unless you made really bad decisions in your deck building, like if you brick, it's more of like you got unlucky than anything. Mostly, I think mostly because of like how the mulligan system works in this game. But yeah, I mean, I ran similar top end exactly like yours, and that was kind of like my top end as well when I played Haven for a while, and I never had any issues bricking too bad. So yeah.
Now your curve may be low, but I feel like what you can do with your cards is pretty mediocre until 3. That's like the only thing that I think. Like,
yeah,
you're not actually breaking. Like you've got cards, it's just they don't do anything.
Yes and no. Your turn 3 going first can be kind of rough, TBH. But like 1 Bellringer, Prism, 2 Evo, any of them, and then 3 kind of sucks. But 3 sucks if you go first. If you go second, your 3 drops are like OP.
I'm gonna be honest. Just like raw putting out a Prism on like 1 going first is like that's like a not super safe play.
I mean that's also like a skill check kind of thing. Like that play is like OP against decks that can't respond to it on their turn. But so like Dragon matchup, you never do it. Rune matchup, you never do it. Yeah, but like if you're against like Abyss or something, I would always just drop it.
Well, yeah. I agree with that.
All right, moving on to the next question here. So, if people don't realize, your list actually plays no Opinion Prayer at all, and so the next question is evolved that like, do you find it harder to activate Guardian Nun more reliably early on, or is the fanfare for Guardian Nun not really that important for you, or what?
I guess also just for context, Guardian Nun is a 3 mana 3/3, and it gains +1 HP if you have an amulet on play. No. Simple answer, no. You have Plea, you have Hair. You also have an amulet tutor that you can evo on 2, going first or going second, that can search out hair specifically for Guardian Nun on 3. So like I don't particularly think that like you miss it. I kind of think like logic like this comes back to like the idea of like sequencing incorrectly. Like I think a lot of people when they play Haven, like if they drop a sacred plea on turn 1, they always want to crack it turn 2, and I think it's like incorrect to always crack it turn 2. Like it's very situational. Sometimes it's correct, but sometimes it's not. But if you crack it when you're not supposed to, then like you run into situations where like, yeah, I don't have an amulet, my Guardian Nun won't get +1 HP, yada yada yada. Like, if you plan out your turns and like you sequence everything correctly, I don't think it's like that inconsistent. But like obviously it's 6 cards, right? Like you can not see, right? It's 9 cards because of technically a tutor, right? Like you can obviously not see 9 cards in like your first 3 draws of the game. Like it happens, right?
Yeah.
Do I think the fanfare is like important? It depends on what you're trying to do with the card. Like the Guardian Nun, I think is really powerful when it is a 4/5 because 4/5 stats trades up into other 3-drop evos because most 3-drop evos are 4/4, and that's when I think like Guardian Nun is like super broken. But like if you're just tempoing Nun out because you need a body on the board or like you just want to heal, then like the fanfare doesn't really matter that much.
Yep, I completely agree.
Yep.
All right, this kind of like incorporates it again because like once again you don't play Pinion Prayer. Do you ever find yourself running out of amulets? I guess this is more of like in combination with Holy Sentinel and stuff, you know.
Yeah. So my list was what, 8 amulets plus 3 Crow Priestess, and then technically 9 if you want to count a second copy of Holy Sentinel. Because you have Dark Offering, so like you can convert the second Holy Sentinel into a Tiger if you're desperate.
I've done it.
I mean, I've done it. Sometimes it's correct. I think this comes down to sequencing. Like Haven, like real talk, that deck is like beyond a skill check, just in every way, realistically. Like I do legitimately think a bad Haven player is significantly worse than a really good Haven player that's grinded the deck and practiced the deck. If you sequence your amulets correctly, you pop them at the correct moment, you know what amulets to bring back in each specific moment with your Cruel Priestess, you know what to search off of your Prison Priestess Evo. I don't really find that I run out of amulets with my counts. Obviously, there's going to be turns where you might not necessarily have an amulet for Holy Sentinel, but I don't actually think you need to crack an amulet every single turn to make Holy Sentinel a good card. Like sometimes the mana cost or like the way that the mana plays out on a turn makes it so putting an amulet down and cracking it doesn't work and makes the turn overall worse. So I think tunneling on making a Tiger every single turn or my deck sucks is incorrect with Haven.
All right. This, I guess, this next question too here is, are you ever in a position where you have Hair of Illusion but no way to sack it to proc Sentinel and stuff like that? I guess like how much does that impact your matchups and stuff, or how often does that come up?
Oh, well, I mean, it's only like Dragon technically plays around it, right? Like what other set has aura, or what other cards have aura that are like playable in a competitive sense?
Maim you.
What the fuck?
Is that 2-drop guy, Dean? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, you know.
Haven. Oh, the Haven ward, right?
He evos.
Okay, nice, very nice. Okay, yeah. So like realistically, it's only Dragon that can do that, right? Like they forte you, and then your Hair can't target anything, so you can't crack
Aurelia. The strongest card in the game, actually.
Yeah, if you played into it, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that like comes up often enough to like be a real concern, honestly. I do play Dark Offering, and you can use Dark Offering to convert a Hair into a Tiger if you so need to. But
sometimes you're desperate. I've done that.
Sometimes you're desperate. I've definitely done that as well. Like again, sometimes it's just correct, right?
Yep.
So like you have a Dark Offering to get an out, or to like out the forte and like use your Hair to convert a Tiger. But I think it comes back to like the idea that you have to crack an amulet every turn or Holy Sentinel is bad, which again I don't agree with. Like if you have Holy Sentinel on the board and your opponent fortes you, I think your turn is better spent like doing Guardian Nun, clear forte, and then you set up an amulet for the next turn. Like you play a plea or something, or you play down a hair, and then you say pass.
Guardian Nun having 5 health is huge in there because sometimes you get Blazing Breath with other classes. And then you actually cry.
Okay, side topic. Everyone says Forte is the most broken card in Dragon. The most broken card in Dragon is fucking Blazing Breath. That card is so fucking stupid. Why can a 1-mana spell uptrade a 3-mana follower?
And why is this card a quick when I like I've said this before, like I was playing Runecraft and I just assumed Wind Blast was a quick because of Dragon. And then I tried to play as a quick and my opponent's like, you can't do that. I was like, what? And I looked at the card, I was like, wow, why does Dragon Blazing Breath, why is it a quick? What is it going on?
Well, like Serpent's Wrath too. Like Serpent's Wrath is like their version of what was the shitty card? The like magic missile or whatever.
Oh yeah.
The like the deal 2 draw a card, but Dragon gets deal 5 draw a card. And you're just like, why is the spell deck suck so much ass compared to the fucking ramp?
See, I have like less issues with a 3-mana spell, like up trading like a 4 or 5 mana play, but I think a 1-mana spell up trading a 3 or 4 mana play is like beyond fucking egregious. Like that's like fucking Alice in Wonderland digital Tovon 2 3/3 uptrades your 3-drop and then kills your 4-drop level nonsense.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I mean we've complained about it a lot. I think that's like almost worse than Shenlong. Actually, it is worse than Shenlong. At least Shenlong's 7 mana.
Dude, Shenlong's like at least like in BP1. Maybe this is a hot take. Shenlong's like not even that bad in BP1. I think Shenlong like is only egregious in BP2 onwards because Dragon gets like all the discard stuff.
Because the Shenlong is a double clear on top of heal. It's
like,
you're getting a little too much there.
The only time in BP1 so far I've been like, I hate Shenlong was like locals where my opponent triple top deck Shenlong with 1 card in hand every time to scum the win because they got triple Evo to just barely get over my life total to their life total. And I was like, wow. And we were like in time. And then we compared life. I was like, the only reason you won is because you killed 15 in the last 3 turns. This is bullshit.
When you're playing like aggro, sometimes the Shenlong start hitting and you're like, oh my
I mean,
God,
you accept
dude.
that as an aggro player. Like people will out you with heals and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But
it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like Blazing Breath. You're like, okay, dude.
Yeah, Blazing Breath is absurd. All right, we're gonna move on to the next question here. And once again, this is about hair. How often do you find yourself using the 10 play on hair? Does that ever come up?
It comes up a lot in Dragon, actually. I think Dragon's like the only matchup where it matters. Like in every other matchup, you crack it for free and like you do tempo plays with it. But in the Dragon matchup specifically, because the deck is like play bomb every single turn. Like you need the extra hard removal, and the games go long enough that you hit 10 play points, and you can actually use hair as an AOE removal if your opponent gets to go wide. So again, the Dragon matchup. My ideal amulet usage is you use a hair on like turn 5 or 6 to make a tiger and like try to flip the board and take tempo back, and then you save the other 2 hairs for the 10 mana AoE removal to just outgrind the Dragon player and like deal with all their bombs and stuff.
Yep, I hard agree with that.
Yeah, that's about right.
Next question here. What do you find yourself bringing back most with Cruel Priestess? If you have the option between Sacred Plea for a draw or Dual Flames for threats, which would you usually choose, or does it depend on context and matchup? Spoilers, I think it's context and matchup, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's entirely context and matchup. Like sometimes you go like your win con is you need to go wide, so you bring back Dual Flames and you crack it, and then you float 4 mana or something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your win con is you need to draw more cards to like find more answers and like keep the game going, so you bring back Plea. Sometimes the win con is I need to tap your thing to clear it, so you bring back Hair. Sometimes the win con is I have the board, I can just tempo Cruel Priestess and grab Hair and say I have hard removal next turn, don't do anything, smile. Like it literally just depends on the situation. I think in like the ideal situation, if your game goes perfect, I think Cruel Priestess is best bringing back Dual Flames most of the time. But yeah, it literally just depends.
That's one thing interesting. It's never come up for me, so I'm wondering how often has it come for you where you're grabbing Hair and being like, I can crack this next turn for 10 play points, smile? Like how often has that come up for you?
I wouldn't say it comes up often like that specifically, but I definitely do it in like the Dragon matchups. if the game is going really long and my opponent still has like 5 hand, 6 hand, and like we're gonna play like 5 more turns, I'll just grab, like, if I don't need to immediately do things, I'll just grab it and say you're not allowed to go wide. Like the game where you play one thing, the game's gonna go longer, and then I might not even crack it next turn. Like it might just sit on my board for like 2 or 3 turns as a threat.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, here. Okay. Next question here. If you already have Sentinel in hand or on the field, would you optimize searching Sacred Plea or Dual Flames for Prison Priestess Evo?
Context.
Yeah, that's what I figured too.
Yeah, it's literally just like search what matters, right? Like if you have Sentinel but you don't have an amulet to like crack, grab an amulet to crack. Grab Hair, grab Plea. If you have Sentinel, you have an amulet to crack, and you just want to like get like a value tempo card, grab Dual Flames for like your turn 6 play. It literally just depends.
I guess this kind of comes to the same thing for the next question here. When you have Prison Priestess on 2 with Evo or turn 3 and you Evo it, and you don't have any amulets in hand, what essentially are you searching for there? Are you getting the Holy Sentinel or are you getting some other things?
It depends on what the context, man.
Yeah, it depends what the board state is.
It depends on like what the board is.
Yeah.
It depends on what I'm doing, what my hand is. It depends on what the matchup is. Like if I need a turn 4 play, I might search Dual Flames there. Like if my hand fucking sucks and I need to just draw more cards to play the game, I might just search like Plea to be able to crack it on turn 4 and like try to dig into like a Themis or something on 5. If the matchup is slow and like I need Holy Sentinel to win, I will probably search Holy Sentinel in that situation and then just drop it when I get another amulet set up. It literally just depends.
All right. The next question here too is kind of similar in the sense it's talking about your dark offering. What was your reasoning behind it, and like how do you actually end up using it in your matchups?
I guess also just for context, I play a 1 of Dark Offering, which I think threw people off or something. I don't know. Do you guys think Dark Offering is also a bad card?
I thought it was really, really good. Like in my first week or 2 of playing Haven, I really, really liked the card. I ended up cutting it back a lot. I don't know if my current list plays it at all, but I've kind of stopped playing set 1. But I always thought that card was actually relatively good. So
I personally wish you had 2 every time I played the list.
Yeah, I can see 2.
And I like the cantrip.
Yeah, like it just plays into like
huge.
It plays into like the main game plan, right? Like you're just trying to heal, you're trying to sustain. You win when you get to the late game. You should be winning if you get to the late game. So you want cards that get you to the late game. And Dark Offering not only heals, it draws an extra card, right? And like that's just extra deck that you get to see to find answers to deal with the board and get to the late game.
And it's like it combos really well with things like the Bell Ringers in the early game, because like you Bell Ringer and then they go to attack it and you go cool, sack it, because like their card's gonna live anyway. But now like you gained health off of that play. And you dug too deep, so it's like
This is like the metagaming locals kind of thing. Like I don't know about you guys, but like when I play against people, I try to watch how they like interact and deal with like followers on the board. And most people, when you have a Bell Ringer on the board, they'll never clear it unless they're trying to like jam Stormface. They'll clear other things on your board and then swing into the Bell Ringer because it has 0 HP. So like because of that, you can use Bell Ringer to like bait your Dogger Offering essentially and get max value.
Well, I mean, that's going to be the same regardless, right? Well, I guess. Well, I mean, isn't it the same outcome then as like if we do, because that's just proper play, right? That's not even like
that is
like
proper play.
You're like I make sure that they're not I don't know, like Blaze. They're not like summoning the Dragon Warrior and then popping the Bell Ringer and slamming into the Cruel Priest. Like that's just proper play. So yeah, you should always be able to sack the Bell Ringer, or you should always be able to sack like a card, like even like a Tiger, right? Because you have so much like spot removal. If something's living through a Tiger,
I think a lot of times too with Haven like really is like the numbers on your opponent's card don't matter as much. So even if you like pop a Tiger for the draw, right, you can still the removal is just it's gone.
Like a lot of times your opponent like value trading you just doesn't matter because the way you would remove the card is the same regardless, unless like you specifically have Cudgel. So like Dark Offering, their value trade usually doesn't matter. another thing that like I really like about Dark Offering is like late game, if you top deck a Balringer and like you feel fucking miserable because the card's completely dead, like it gives you a way to convert it. Same with like your second Holy Sentinel, right? Like you almost never want two Sentinels on board. So if you draw your Sentinel in the late game or your second Sentinel in the late game, you can use it as a 6-mana play to make a Tiger out of that Sentinel.
Do you know how insane? Well, I guess it doesn't fully convert this way. Wait, no, it does. Do you know how insane 2 mana discard a card, heal 3, draw 2 sounds?
Yeah, just like play Balringer, Dark Offering it.
That legitimately sounds insane.
And
you can build that. You can build that multiple times in a game.
It's not even discard, right? If you convert Balringer, because
discard 1, draw 2. It's the same as converting the Balringer, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep. All right.
But yeah. Card's really good. I'm a huge fan of Dark Offering. I think like Dark Offering is like low key one of like Haven's best cards.
Is it another skill check? I don't know. It's kind of like the curate. You're like a curate's a skill check. Well,
next
Dark Offering.
I think
don't know,
in Booster 2, also, I think it's secretly a really strong card into the meta. But it depends also how you're building your deck. But yeah.
Yeah, Booster 2, I think, like in Japanese lists in Booster 2, I think most of them played like 2 to 3 Dark Offering because the interaction with Aegis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you can Dark Offering your Aegis and you don't lose it. So you just get to draw 1, heal 3 for 1 mana. Which is like kind of insane. But
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Card is sick. I love it. It also I didn't mention this as well. Because Dark Offering is a quick, you can actually use it to interact with Forte as technically as well. Like if Dragon overextends to like try to Forte you for game, like if you have 1 play point open, like you can use that to heal out of the Forte to not die. And then because they overextend, then you can like flip the game around.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Next question here. We're finally closing out. We're getting there. Are there any matchups or situations where it can be correct to play double Sentinel on field?
Usually no. Just straight up. Like 5 board slots is like way too tight for double Sentinel because like the way you sequence your cards, like everything gets really hard. It's super easy to get board locked if you have 2 Sentinels on board, unless you have 3 Dark Offering to like convert things. You can never play Dual Flames. You can very rarely ever like make a John board, like make like 2 or 3 Tigers and then John Evo and have like a bunch of 4/6s. Like everything just sequences really poorly if you have or not sequences. That's a horrible word. Everything just plays out poorly if you have double Sentinel.
Yeah, a lot of times the only time you're like playing double Sentinel is like you have the Dark Offering in hand up, pop it away.
Yeah, like a 6 mana, you Dark Offering, convert it, or like I don't know, like if you're in like a really grindy game and like your hand is like Sentinel, plea, hair or something, then like it's obviously correct. But like that's a weird one.
I don't know. I both agree and disagree with you because like there's a bunch of amulets, there's a bunch of cards like Lucifer. If you go like Lucifer crack amulet, like that was the only thing you could have done anyway. But now you have Lucifer 2 wards. They have to get through the wards to get to the Lucifer. Or I do agree though, like it board locks you, but you have so much removal. You have like 5, like you have double Themis. You have the 5 different 4 mana removal spells. And so like as long as you're on those plus the amulets, or you're on the Lucifer or the curates plus the amulets, those turns actually do feel good. But that's why I think that you would like 2 Dark Offerings, because you do want a Dark Offering the second one eventually.
Yeah, second Dark Offering was something I was thinking about. I just literally didn't have enough time to like test everything I wanted to test before going into regionals.
Because the double Sentinel, like for a couple turns, you're like, this is insane, and then eventually you go, holy shit, this is bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
But for a couple turns, you're like, whoa, I have all the gas. Right. I do agree with your points.
Yep. So next question here is kind of getting away from, I guess, your deck in general, and just more for the future of Haven. Black Inscripture, how well does it work as a viable removal in the current set, I guess, and future ones, and I guess in set 2 mostly, compared to everything else?
Yeah, in set 2, I think Black Inscripture is like crazy good. Like that card's kind of nuts when you read it. But like my issue in BP1 and the reason why I didn't play it is that card is unplayable into Dragon for the most part. So like it's usually just like a brick in that matchup. And like I built my deck for Dragon, so I don't want bricks into the Dragon matchup. But like set 2, Leonidas, Black Inscripture is the best card in the game against Sword, straight up. Aggro Abyss is also like super OP, and Black Inscripture is like the way you deal with Aggro Abyss and like actually be able to control the board. Like I think come BP2 when like you cut Holy Sentinel and like you play harder control, like you 100% play like 2 to 3 Black Inscripture.
Absolutely. The list I've been testing too plays 2, and it's been great. It like the aggro matchup is still pretty rough, even with all the cheap removal and everything you do run in the like heavy control list. So aggro Abyss is going to be really scary in the next format or next meta. All right, I'm going to skip this one question here because it has nothing to do with your deck. It's more involving the third place deck. So we're going to the last question here. Do you ever find yourself running out of removal against Dragon or any other matchups?
Oh, like just hard removal in general? Not usually, but like obviously sometimes there are games or situations where it can happen, right? Mm-hmm. So like in most Dragon lists, like you usually match up parity in terms of their bombs versus your hard removal. So as long as like you pick or take correct lines each turn and you clear things efficiently, then it's usually pretty good. But like maybe this comes back to like the whole skill check thing. Like Haven's really hard. Like if you use your removal inefficiently and like you curve kill spells and like you Acolyte's Light something because you didn't want to take like 4 face damage, but like it wasn't that hard to remove next turn. Like those are the situations where I feel like you do start running out of removal, and like the games get really hard. So like as long as you sequence your turns correctly and like you use your removal efficiently, I at least I was finding that you were usually okay in terms of hard removal. I was considering a third Themis though, like as like a 41 card in my deck. I just never got around to testing it, and I didn't want to go into regionals with like 41 cards untested.
Understandable. I kind of agree completely with you on that stuff too, because like when I was grinding Haven a bunch in the beginning too, it was a lot of thought process was, okay, if I use this removal now to save like 4 face damage, like could I have cleared this easier? And like how important is this specific removal in my hand, and if I'm wasting it on this random card now, like do I actually need it for a bigger threat that I know they should be running later? Do I have answers for that and stuff like that? So like a lot of that context really matters on deciding how you optimally use your removal. And sometimes like taking the damage to face is like actually the correct choice in some cases. And I think that's one thing that people get afraid of when playing like Haven and stuff, is like they're afraid to trade their life as a resource, which
I don't even think that's Haven. I think that's just like in general. Like I find like most people don't use health as a resource, even though health is a resource, right? Yeah. And like I find a lot of people, like if they play a card that has ward, they will always ward it, regardless of like if the ward matters or not. Or like, yeah, if you have a way to remove something on the board, most people will sit there and say, I'm going to remove this right now because that's the best thing in the current moment, rather than like thinking about 3 times down the line or whatever. And like, yeah, I think like playing that way is when Haven is a bad deck.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
All right, that kind 100%. Of closes everything out. That was the final question. First off, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us. It was
sorry. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
sorry it took so long.
No, it's mostly my fault. I've been traveling plus running around doing a lot of other stuff, so like scheduling this has been a nightmare for me. But finally got around to it, and luckily we were able to do it with Dean here, and so he could talk about his run as well. It was a pleasure having you here. I hope to talk to you again. I'm sure. Well, hopefully I'm at Worlds with you, and then we can vlog and do stuff out there together, which will be a lot of fun.
When's Texas?
October, like the second week of October, I think.
Okay, soon.
Yeah. Are you heading out there for Weiss or anything, or?
No, I'm not traveling at all.
Okay.
You're done. My motivation for Weiss is like negative values right now. Like I do not like the game. I just only play Shadowverse. So like not having to travel anymore for Shadowverse. I'm just saving money for Japan to go to Worlds.
Understandable, smart decision. I'm in the same boat. I'm going to a Shadowverse regional, and then I'm gonna play Weiss in California, just because I mean it's right here, and I kind of don't want to play in the regional in California because I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of players and a lot of people I don't want to see. So I'm gonna travel to somewhere, do my Shadowverse run there, and then do my one Weiss run here in California, and then kind of call it quits. Weiss has been not a good spot, not a lot of fun. I only show up to events that like give me a reason to even break out my Weiss decks at this point. But yeah, like I said again, though, thank you so much for coming. We enjoyed you here, and hopefully we see you at Worlds, and we can vlog or do something there together. And then this is for everyone else. If for some reason you don't subscribe to us and you've already made this far, what the hell are you doing? Just subscribe. You obviously like the content for some reason. But other than that, this is like an open invitation to anyone who has won an invite to Worlds and they want to come on and talk about their experience at their regional and stuff like that. Reach out to us, join our Discord, which you can find in the more about section or whatever on YouTube. Or reach it out to either Dean or I on Discord. It's pretty easy to find us since I think we're tagged as content creators in this Shadowverse Evolve Discord. Just hit us up, be like, hey, I won this regional, I got an invite here, third place, first place, whatever. And we'll try to set up a time that works best for all of us to get you on. Because once again, this podcast is to promote the community, because I think that's one of the worst things about Bushiroad overall is that when I look at other card games, I think they do an amazing job promoting their player base, promoting their competitive scene. When it comes to Bushiroad, it's kind of like you get a pat on the back and then they forget about you forever. And so I want to hopefully correct that and get faces, names out in the community. People get known in the community for being good players, and hype up everyone else to win Worlds, travel to these events and stuff like that. So you have an open invitation. Message us. We'll schedule it out and figure out when we can do it, and we'll get you on. Do whatever it takes, I think. Besides that, you guys have any shout outs? I guess, Ryan, if you want to shout out your sponsors or anything. I don't know if it matters for Shadowverse.
It doesn't matter for Shadowverse. No, shout outs to Toronto community. I'm very thankful for having like a really high quality locals and like having really high quality testing partners and like YouTube plus like Hikago Sam and a little bit of like Iyashiki from Toronto. So shout outs to all of you guys. Thanks for helping me practice, and hopefully I can do well at Worlds.
I have faith in you. You got this. You're going to do very well. As for me, I'll scum my way to Worlds and then go 0-2 drop, baby.
I'll give a shout out to the 2023 Shadowverse World Champion, Ryan Wibberly. I have faith that this time he won't play a sorcery cache and add a follower to hand. But,
bro, come on, man.
Dang, man, cutting deep for those memes. Oh, look, man.
Look, we had to give it to him.
Oh, man. Oh, all right. I think that is it. Shout out to the community and everyone who watched this. As always, I absolutely appreciate every single person that takes their time to listen to this at work or their car ride or anything like that. The people who come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I listen to your stuff." Honestly, thank you so much. I always feel like Dean and I make the most low bar content ever, but for some reason the community does like it. So,
wait, what is this? We're trying to improve.
Yeah, I'm in the process of setting money aside. I'm going to buy a very good camera, especially if I go to Worlds, and I will do as much videoing as possible, and all that stuff. I think
it would definitely. I know I personally want to just start putting definitely more content out in this next month. I kind of disappeared because of man, it's really stressful to go to this small 20 man. It's really stressful.
Yeah, isn't it I guess this is not relevant for non-Weiss people, but isn't it kind of wild having drive and desire to want to do good at a regional and actually feeling your skill matters and the practice you're doing matters?
Well, I think it's more of the framework of the game. It's the deck choice matters a lot. In Weiss, you go, yeah, it's good enough. I feel very comfortable on it. I think I'm so much better than the other people. Non-ironically, you just go, I think I'm so much better that I have a good chance with this, right? And then in this game, I'm like, man, I have to play super well. I have to be teched against these matchups. Yeah. And I know you said you felt like that too. So Yes, I do. But also, I feel like also the one and done, right? Doesn't that make it like it's so much more like weight on that one regional, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this is it.
I like
So-
heavily agree too, because like going to Weiss regionals, it's never been like I had to like study hard or anything like that. I know my deck. I know I play better than most people here. I just gotta slightly hope that like once I hit the top tables, like the shuffle falls in my favor. And I think that's one other thing too. Like playing so much Weiss for so long too is you can misplay in Weiss and still like be fine completely and not be punished
My
at
opponents
all.
often do.
Yeah, dude. I watch people misplay against me and I just die and I'm like, well, that's Weiss. But in this game, you make one misplay and you just already know you've lost the game. Like, for example, like I talked before in another cast where like I made one misplay turn 2 of a game in top 8 for an invite and I knew I lost right then and there 100%. And I did. And I lost because of that misplay I made on turn 2. And I was just like, God, I know I'm better than this. Why did I do that mistake? So it feels like every decision when playing Shadowverse feels like it weighs way more on how the outcome of the game is going to be, and it does feel very good because I used to have that same feeling when I played Magic, but I stopped playing Magic and ended up playing Weiss for like 10 years, which has been a good and bad decision of my life. And coming back to Shadowverse Evolve and having my decisions feel like they matter so much more feels really good. And it feels like I can learn faster because of that. Because I feel like every time when we talked about our misplays in Weiss, we'd have to sit there, open up the hypergeometric calculator to figure out, was I right or not in doing this? You know?
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I like looking that deep into something.
Listen, I don't like when we look up like, okay, what, like we have to sit across Clinton and then we do the math afterwards. And we're like, oh, we lost to a 0.05% chance of him top decking this after doing these 3 things in this specific order.
Look,
I
the
hate this game.
Powerball winners, okay? We can fight those Powerball winners.
Oh man. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up everything. We hope to see you guys in the next episode. And once again, if you're still watching, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. We appreciate all of you so much. Bye, everyone.